After weeks and weeks of no UFC fights and all of us going insane like we're Prime Mordecai getting dumped by Margaret, we're finally back, and next weekend we have UFC 324, a great card from top to bottom, and I'm very lucky and excited to be able to talk about it with y'all. So again, today, giving y'all my full card predictions and breakdown for this stacked card to kick off the Paramount era, okay? Starting over the first one we got here, Adam Fuggitt versus Ty Miller. These guys are very similar in their physical attributes, pretty much the same height and the same reach, but in terms of momentum, I feel like these guys are on the complete opposite wavelengths because Fugue's a massive underdog. Miller's one of the biggest favorites on the card. We have titans of favorites on this card. So any other card, Miller would be one of the biggest or the biggest, but we have Umar and we have, who else? Adam Gautier, so we'll get to them. But my point is, Ty Miller, I'm going to be going with him in this matchup. I feel like it's one of the safer bets. I feel like he's just a superior striker. We don't know too much about his wrestling, and granted, he is making his UFC debut here, but his Contender Series performance was a great 30-27. He was just throwing so much volume and output, and granted, he's not the most accurate striker, and in that fight specifically, he was missing a lot of those shots, but overall, it was a very impressive win for Miller. He's got good fundamentals behind his striking. He's got a nice one, too. He really utilizes his reach, especially with that jab. And I feel like he might be able to find the chin of Fuggitt here, man, who's coming off a really rough knockout loss to, yes, a much more powerful striker than Ty Miller and Islam Dulatov. But the point is, Miller will throw a shit ton. He'll throw everything at you in the kitchen sink. And Fuguett's chin can be questionable. I mean, all three of his UFC losses are by finish. And granted, it's a pretty good comp. But for the most part, Fuguett's one of these guys where I think he is a solid fighter. He's solidly well-rounded. He's, I think he can hang at a UFC level outside the rankings. He could beat up the jobbers, basically, but at the UFC level. But the point is, I think Ty Miller is going to be too much. I know he's very green, only 6-0, but again, I rate his striking here. I rate the aggressiveness on the feet, the fact that he just gets the hell after it. And even though he might be lacking power, I feel like he makes up for it with the amount he's throwing. And I know that he might be more on the one-dimensional side of things. He's not really much of a wrestler, much more of just a pure striker. But I feel like it's enough to get some kind of 30-27 in this matchup against Fuggitt, or some kind of maybe like a round 2 knockout here. I don't think it'll come as easy as a Dulatov KO, but going with Ty Miller by a 30-27 or a round 2 knockout. Moving on up next to a really kind of sneaky hard fight to predict here, but Ricky Turcios versus Cameron Smotherman. Big bad Ricky T, man. Part of me really wants to go with him here, but my prediction is going to be the favorite in Cameron Smotherman. I'm going to listen to my mind and my gut here, but there is that voice that's telling me, like I'm Randy Orton himself, that Ricky Turcios could pull it off, man. This fight reminds me a lot of Varentenikov versus Prado that happened a few months ago. I don't know if y'all remember, but it reminds me of this is because Varentenikov, like a Turcios, is one of these guys where there's not really anything crazy that stands out in his skill set, but he's in the UFC. He has a lot of losses, though. And then you have a guy like Smotherman, who's kind of like the Prado in this matchup, where it's like, okay, he has a lot of UFC losses as well, but not that many fights as well. But it's like, you know how young he is, and you see how good he is. Like Smotherman, Prado, they're good strikers. But then they just keep coming up short. They can get out-grappled. They're just out-struck or out-experienced, and that's the problem, right? And I think Prado might be cut from the UFC right now or close to it, and I hope that's not the case with Smotherman because he is a good striker, and he's putting on solid scraps. I'm relying on him to be able to beat the level of competition in Turcios because Smotherman is losing to guys like Ricky Simone and shit like that. I'd rate a Ricky Simone above a Turcios. People forget, man, he beat Marab, but in general, Turcios, he is the tough winner from a few years ago, and that's how I kind of refer to him in my mind, at least. That's how I found out about him. And I think he'll be much more willing to get after it in the grappling, open up the opportunities for himself in the scrambles, and shoot a few takedowns. I can see Turcios mixing it up here, but I'm trusting in Smotherman to get this one done via some decision win, because even though I think he's very green, and even though I think he's kind of lacking a bit more momentum than I thought he'd be having, for as good of a striker as he is, and granted, I'm not saying, especially for bantamweight, I'm not saying he's like a top 10 striker for the fucking division, but for how much he's losing, my point is I think he's better than what the record represents, you know what I mean? And he's young enough to where I think he'll learn from the losses. I think he really needs to throw more on the feet, throw much more volume and output to really prevent these split decision losses or letting these rounds overall just carry away from you. It's not like Smotherman's really getting dominated or really getting hurt or finished, but these fights are just slipping away from him. I think he also needs to really work on the takedown defense. He can be really susceptible to getting picked up and put down, but as long as he can get back up to his feet efficiently or just work on the sprawl, work on stuff in the takedowns, I think that he'll be able to win this fight. I think he'll be kind of at that solid UFC level for the next few years. But Ricky Turcios, he's got a jiu-jitsu base that really has let him down at the UFC level, but he has really good pace and pressure that he can keep up at. And I think that that's kind of been, other than the defensive grappling, a hole in Smotherman's game. I think that he kind of gets outworked by some of these guys, and Turcios can be a dog in there that puts on a lot of pace and pressure. And even though really, like, he's only had like a split decision win or two in the UFC and a lot of losses, I feel like this could be a winnable level here where Turcios, of all people could show levels. If he outgrits them and just throws more volume on the feet, mixes in the wrestling, I could see Turcios winning this at plus money, but I'm trusting in the pure skill set here of Cameron Smotherman. Moving on up next to Josh Hokit versus Denzel Freeman. The heavyweights getting after it. This is such a I hear voices in the air level matchup, bro. This is the Rock and Cena of our generation here, bro. And I don't say that lightly, but truly, I'm going with Josh Hokit here. He's a big favorite, genuinely a heavyweight prospect worthy of investing in. This guy can actually wrestle. This guy can strike. Even though he's a bit of a blob, he's got a lot of power, and he's pretty quick on the feet for, again, a heavyweight here. He's young, riding momentum. He talks like Chael Sonnen and Kobe Covington and Ric Flair had one weird output of a fucking child, and then you ended up with Josh Hokit, okay? Like, let me tell you something, brother. Like, all of a sudden, here he is. Whoa, Jesus Christ, get the fuck away. But the point is, this dude can fight. He can scrap. He's energetic, and while he's in the cage, he's explosive and get the hell after it. He can mix it up with nasty elbows and good ground and pound, but on the feet alone, I feel like he has the striking advantage over Freeman, who on the regional scene and coming into the UFC, Freeman was getting all sorts of finishes and was riding momentum. We thought this was going to be someone green, but explosive and racking up a lot of power behind those hands, but in his UFC 1 appearance that he had, it was a bit of a stinker of a decision. It was just kind of, you're kind of falling asleep after, you know what I'm saying? So a bit of a disappointing debut for Freeman. I'm curious to see if he can bounce back here and maybe kind of just mix it up and be able to hang on the feet. But I think that of all these guys, they have a similar record. Yeah, they're like 7-0 and 7-1, but I think Hokit is riding much more momentum, and I rate the wrestling and the striking better here to where I'm excited for a post-fight promo here. I'm predicting a round 1 or 2 finish here from Josh Hokit via ground and pound TKO or just a plain knockout on the feet, okay? Moving on up next to this Unk versus Unkish banger of a striker matchup here, Michael Johnson's versus Hernandez. I know that Hernandez really isn't an Unk, but with all the UFC experience and highs and lows, these guys are like the 2 last Unks at the cookout that are fighting over the last joint or sig, you know what I'm saying here? And my prediction here is going to be Hernandez, the slight favorite here. I think this is a close fight to call. See a lot of people going with MJ, and I think that's fair. He's on a bounce back, comeback, redemption streak, and he's beating up young guys like Silva. He's getting knockouts right before that at the Tampa card. He's on a 3-fight win streak, which in the lightweight division, and if he wins this, he'll get a shot possibly in the rankings, all at 39 years old, all after being finished or defeated so many times, and after defeating the big bad Dustin Poirier. He's here, man, so I gotta give it to Michael Johnson. The striking is there. He's got all the basic fundamentals you need in the world. He has so much wealth of UFC experience. I know he's got a lot of losses. That 25-19 record might be ugly, but he's got some sneaky good wins. He has so much experience. He's been through a lot of wars, and he's on this streak right now. He's building momentum, and his striking is pretty good. Like, again, he was able to just neutralize Zell Huber, who's a very dynamic, explosive, younger striker, faster striker, who probably had a bit more pop behind his shots as well, a bit more versatility on the feet, and Johnson shut him down. So it was a bit of a stinker, but don't get me wrong, MJ could totally win this fight. But I'm going with Hernandez because I think he'll be able to get the better of Johnson purely on the feet. But I think we're going to get some kind of knockout here. I think it's going to be just striker versus striker, purely some kind of dogfight. Now, I'm worried it might not be at too high of a pace. Johnson, he's very capable of going to the distance a lot of the time and kind of just letting these fights. They aren't always just fucking back and forth bloody wars. You know what I'm saying? And Hernandez is the same, but I think they're both so capable of getting those clear KOs to where I think this is going to be that kind of matchup. Hernandez just knocked out Diego Ferreira, just knocked out Jace Hooper. He's on a, I would say, better streak than Michael Johnson right now, and I think that's part of why I'm going to pick him as well. I rate the wins he's getting better, and specifically how he's getting it done, and the level of competition. So overall, the fact that he's younger as well, like, yeah, Johnson's on a great streak right now, beating good guys, or decent guys at 39 years old, but now he's just going to be getting closer to 40, 41, 42, and especially at lightweight, against someone as powerful as Hernandez, who I feel like is just going to be doing a good job at shutting down the momentum of Johnson, not letting him to pressure forward, whereas Hernandez is the one circling on the outside, stealing away these rounds, and eventually just catching him with, I feel like, some shit in the middle of the fight or at the end of the fight, maybe the second, third round, or eventually it might just put Michael Johnson out cold, because, like, listen, it can be difficult to finish him, but I think Hernandez has the necessary power, and yeah, the pressure can be on and off, but I feel like he'll be the one that steals away these rounds. He'll be the one that gets the better of Johnson in the pocket. He'll be the one that hits harder. He's the one that's going to be faster here. And I feel like dictating the pace of the fight to where I'm going with Hernandez. I rate the streak better, the striking better, and he's younger, more powerful to wear. I'm going with Hernandez. Might be risky, but I'm trusting it, and I really like this matchup. Moving on up next to Charles Johnson versus Alex Perez here. Two guys that have a lot of heat behind their hands, and for flyweight standards especially, I like this striker versus striker matchup, and I like that Perez is finally getting a step down in competition while Johnson's finally getting a step up. So I'm down for that, but my pick here is going to be Charles Johnson, okay? It is risky. The betting odds makers are putting a lot of respect on Perez. There's a lot of people going with Perez, and I honestly think that's a fair and totally fucking fine pick, okay? Because when you look at what you're seeing in the cage, and when you look at what you're seeing on paper, Perez is fundamentally a good fighter, a good striker, but he could just make poor decisions at times, or he can get caught in big exchanges, or be chinny, or he can let some of these rounds steal away from him, or he can struggle in the grappling, which is something we won't really have to worry about in this matchup. But my point is, he's a win one and then kind of lose three fighter over the past couple of years. Overall, I think that Perez could have the power to pull off a KO here. I think he does a good job of chopping up the calf. I think that there's nice underdog value on it. But to be honest, I'm a big believer and a big fan of Charles Johnson here, and I think this is a very winnable matchup for him. He's very selective with his shots, and there's a lot of time that he can himself let rounds steal away from him or not throw too much volume or really kind of warm up in that first round. And I think that could be bad going against Perez, who does a really good job of starting out strong. Like, he was up on the scorecards against Tyra before getting finished, up on the scorecards against Almabayev before getting finished. Even his losses in general, he's losing to guys like Pantoja and Bukaukus and Figgy. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but Johnson is a guy where, yeah, he's the prospect killer. You know what I'm saying? He beat Van and Kavanaugh, and he's won 5 out of his last 6, and I'm just saying he's finally getting an uncured where maybe that's the kryptonite. But my point is, I think Johnson's a guy that can make his way to be in the top 7. I know that there's a big loss streak he was on a few years ago, but this guy, even though he's 35 for flyweight, still seems like he's good enough to keep improving. He's a fast striker who I think has good shot selection. And yeah, again, he might not throw enough at times, and that could hurt him here, but I think that the guy knows what he's doing. He's got good fight IQ on the feet. He can mix in the wrestling sometimes, but I feel like he just prefers to stand and bang, aim for some kind of knockout here. He just kind of always goes the necessary pace needed to kind of take these rounds. And again, that could hurt him. I keep saying that, but overall, he's got the good power for flyweight. He's got great boxing, got a nice one too, got good calf kicks. I think he does a good job of being composed and yet mixing it up so efficiently on the feet to where he's got good cardio, durability, and experience, and he's riding all the momentum in the world to where in a pure striker versus striker battle, I get the arguments for Perez, but I'm going to be going with Johnson here, okay? Moving on up next to Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukaukus, and my prediction here is going to be Bukaukus is the slight favorite here. I am tempted to go with Krylov because I think he is the better fighter. When you look at him in the cage, when you look at him on paper, when you look at, you're analyzing the stats and the footage, Krylov is really fucking good. He can wrestle, he can strike, he can go 3 rounds, 5 rounds, or he can knock you out in 1, right? The guy can mix it up. The guy is very, very well-rounded, which is very impressive for the light heavyweight division especially. And don't get me wrong, he's experienced some high highs in the UFC, but he's chinny as fuck. He's got this chin where I just can't count on it, man. I picked like a Grant Dawson to beat Torres and he gets flatlined because I thought he was technically the better fighter. Same thing with like a Leon Edwards over Carlos Prates and shit like that. Like, sometimes I think someone could be the better fighter, even though I know they could have that kryptonite chin, and I just cannot make that mistake, unfortunately, right here. I get it. It's light heavyweight. Anything can happen, folks, but truly, I think Bukaukus is a tough matchup for Krylov. I know that Bukaukus himself has experienced some low lows at the UFC, but overall, he's riding a great win streak right now, man. He's having a lot of momentum in his own right here. I believe he's on like a 3-fight win streak. He's a versatile striker with heavy power. He just kind of lacks output in a lot of fights, but his good takedown defense, I feel like will carry him through here against Krylov, who's probably going to want to take this fight to the ground after getting KO'd, flatlined, brought down to hell, whatever the fuck, twice in his past couple of fights here. He really needs to avoid getting chinned in order to take this one. And 3 rounds against Bukaukus, even though he can have poor fight IQ at times, and even though he doesn't throw too much at times, he has that power, and he's versatile enough to knock the fuck out of Krylov. And he's able to keep it standing. This big opportunity to get up there in the rankings, with the only real kind of asterisk being he had this close fight robbery in there against Cutelaba. Other than that, he's close to the rankings. I feel like he's not much of the offensive wrestler here, but he's defensive enough to hold it down and keep it on the feet and find the right shot to knock out Krylov. Look at Guskov's performance against Krylov. Guskov himself wasn't throwing that much, but at the end of the day, he found that knockout at the end of the first. So for as good as I think Krylov is, man, Bukaukus, yeah, there's concerns, possible robbery on his streak, and then there's like, why was he entertaining the wrestling against Paul Craig? That was kind of fucking dumb, ended up knocking him out, but the point is Bukaukus can be a concerning pick. And even though I rate Krylov and picked him in his past couple fights to win and he lost, I just can't pick him here, man. The chin is so concerning and Bukaukus is so powerful, all right? So I'm going with Bukaukus via a round 2 KO where Krylov wins the first round. Moving on up next to Adaba Gautier versus Andre Pulayev, and I'm going with Adaba Gautier. Round 1 KO. Like, Andre Pulayev isn't all bad, man. On a real note, like, he isn't one of the lowest jobbers in the UFC. I think most people wanted a bigger step up for Gautier. I get that he's only 23 years old. I get the UFC wants to make him a superstar or whatever, but this technically is kind of a step up, but I get where fans are coming from. Andre Pulayev, to a lot of people right now, is the guy from Kill Tony, where they kind of pull him from the bucket from the bar over, and it ends up being one of the guys that just fucking chokes, and then they all just booing him out the building. You're like, what the fuck are you doing here? That was not comedy, right? I feel like that's how people are talking about Pulayev, is that kind of bad. I don't think he's going to win this matchup. I do think he's the worst underdog in the card, but he's not all bad, right? He does have okay striking. He's got a nice jab that he uses frequently. He can mix in the wrestling, and I think that might be kryptonite to Gautier in a couple of years against someone who can have a good enough chin on the feet. I think Gautier might lose towards the end of next year when he starts facing like these top 10 guys, but I think that this is such a winnable fight for a man. He has crazy power. He's the mini Francis Ngannou. The UFC's pushing him here, and they know what they're doing here. And I think that he has so many unknowns with the cardio and the wrestling to where, yeah, again, it could be concerning in the future, but this fight specifically, man, I get that it might be cliche that everyone's saying, oh, round 1 KO easy, and put your house and put the whole fucking hospital on the line for Adama Gautier round 1 KO. I'm not just trying to be that basic pick, but sometimes things are obvious because they end up being right. So because I rate Gautier's power and striking so much here, and because it's such a winnable level of competition, I say around 1 KO, brother. All right. Moving on up next to the next one we got here. It's Umar Nurmagomedov versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Interestingly enough, this one didn't get moved to the main card. It's still here on the prelims. My prediction here would stay the same regardless, okay? Umar Nurmagomedov here. I'm going with him to either, unfortunately, 30-27 Figueiredo just dominated him in the wrestling, dominated him on the feet. Unfortunately, it hurts me to say, y'all, all right? Because I fuck with Figgy, and I'm not the craziest Umar fan in the world here, but this, like, he's a bigger favorite than Gautier against Pulayev. He's a bigger favorite against Miller, against Fuggitt. Umar is the guy that's set up to have tough fights against, like, Jan or Marab, and Figgy would, I feel like, get smoked by those guys. So, like, I understand it. I get why a lot of people aren't picking Figgy. I get why everybody and their mother is picking Umar. But I have to ride on it, man. I do think that there is a crafty chance that Figueiredo could pull something out of his ass here, but I'm trusting in Umar to really get this one done, man. Okay, so maybe some kind of ground and pound TKO, maybe a submission, maybe a 30-27, I don't know. I think Figueiredo could get a knockout in. I think he has that kind of power, and I think Umar, more emphasis on this, but I think Umar could be chinny enough. Like, if you're getting rocked by Almacan and Batista, two guys who hit solidly hard, but nothing crazy for bantamweight, against Figgy, who hits harder than both of those guys, has more high-level experience than both of those guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? Figueiredo's fought absolute killers. He's a former champion for flyweight. Like, there's good arguments that Figueiredo is a tougher fight than a Batista or some of these guys that have given Umar more adversity. Now, again, they both fought Sandhagen, and, like, Umar beat the shit out of Sandhagen, like, 49-46 him, and then Sandhagen beat the shit out of Figueiredo and TKO'd him in 2 rounds. So, I get the MMA math here implies that Umar's gonna win via, like, a flying knee Masvidal style over me, Ben Askren, in, like, 5 seconds. But I think Figueiredo will put up a fight. I think he's good enough defensively in the grappling if he actually uses good fight IQ. Not talking about the Corey Sandhagen performance and times like that. Like, Figueiredo can survive. Like, can he be finished? Yeah, like, he can be submitted. It's happened a couple times in his career. Can he be TKO'd? It is possible. I don't know if Umar has that kind of power, but he definitely has, I feel like, well, not definitely, but I feel like there's a good argument that Umar is the superior striker here, even though Figueiredo is more powerful and has a lot more experience on the feet in his time, going back and forth in the UFC. Like, he relies a bit less on the grappling than Umar does. Umar's bread and butter is more the wrestling. I feel like that Umar has such a great kicking game and can be so unorthodox at times in the feed and moves in and out really well, just kind of lacking the power and volume to the point to where I think that he is a good enough striker to have the striking advantage over Figueiredo, who, even though he hits hard and has good striking in his own right, just beat a pure striker, Montel Jackson, off his last win. That's how we got this. I'm just saying, man, I think Umar is the more dangerous mix because he's already a high-level wrestler, but his striking is always evolving. Whereas Figueiredo, his prime was a bit of a while ago. He's 38 years old. He's experienced those highs already, where Umar is just now getting going into his prime. And I think Figueiredo peaked, and I don't think he can improve as much now or get faster or stronger like he did, whereas Umar is currently doing that, to the point where if this matchup happened a couple years ago, it might be different, but Umar, I feel like, just has all the advantages in the world here. He's got the wrestling. He's got the striking. He could just be chinny, and he can gas out. There are those chin concerns. There are those cardio concerns. There's concerns even in the striking, possibly. Like, maybe he gets outstruck or knocked the fuck out by, like, a Sean O'Malley or something like that. Maybe. I'm just saying, it could happen. Umar has a very questionable chin, but I just don't think that's going to be too concerning of problems in this matchup, because Figueiredo has cardio problems at times. You know what I mean? I think Figueiredo has the power to knock out Umar, but I just think Umar is probably going to stink it up, probably just going to absolutely absolutely smudge him and rack up a lot of control. Maybe do some ground and pound. Maybe we'll see like a ground and pound TKO. I could see that happening. Or maybe a submission. I could see Figueiredo being susceptible and prone to that. I just think Umar is much younger, faster, will continue to improve, and he's got good fight IQ. He's got a good team behind him. He's the arguably better striker. Again, it might be a hot take, but he's for sure the better wrestler here. I don't think he'll have to worry about the cardio concerns going against Figueiredo in a 3-rounder. And maybe Figgy will chin him, but overall, I have to trust in the pure skill set and momentum here. So I'm going with Umar Nurmagomedov via just domination, or I don't even know why. Just anything. You could pick any kind of finish or someone out of a hat. Hope I'm wrong, but we'll have to see it, man. Umar's really fucking good. You know what I'm saying? And moving on now to the main card. And I'm telling y'all, man, expect full violence and pure violence with this one. The UFC knows what they're doing with the matchmaking. They're trying to make a statement on Paramount. And this fight specifically is exactly what I mean by that energy, okay? I'm trying to tell everyone about this fight because I know how good it's about to be. Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. Striker versus striker. Both these guys love to hang at a high pace in a dogfight here. You got a lot of finishes from Silva, the highest finishing ratio on this entire card. And Allen, who is just a stand and bang boxer who took a couple rounds off Holloway. And I know he's coming off a really long layoff here, but I think he's going to bring him in and grit down on the motherfucking mouthpiece, okay? Even though I really like Arnold Allen. I'm a big fan. I like the whole personality. I like the whole fighting style. I mean, this dude said that him and Gene Silva are the two opposite ends of the spectrum of autism, man. Like, I'm getting a good laugh at work here and that kind of shit. I'm a fan of Allen in and outside the cage. I just think with a year and a half off, man, and, you know, it was a great win over Giga Chikadze, but Chikadze's 0-2 since then, getting older and slower, and the Allen win just isn't aging too well for him. And I think after all that time off, going against someone like Silva, who's been really active. I think he fought 3 or 4 times last year, who's already fought a Lopez now, so now he's kind of getting more comfortable hanging at the top 10, and now he'll learn from that Lopez loss. Silva is so powerful, explosive, and dynamic on the feet. He has so many weapons, and he doesn't really force any combinations. He doesn't force these knockdowns. They just come, and he's naturally just a heavy pressure fighter to the point to where Allen, I don't think is going to be able to get into that flow state that he loves, man. Yeah, he can't fight well off the back foot, don't get me wrong, which I think is good in this matchup because I think Gene Silva's just going to pressure him against the fence man here, but I think that Allen, this is just a tough comeback fight to him to where I'm going to go with Gene Silva via a round 2 or 3, just sometime I feel like in the second half of the fight. KO here, man. I'm hoping it's not a flat line because I like Allen here, but Silva has that kind of power. It's very sneaky, man. It's like that ultra ego. Like his opponent just starts out up here and all of a sudden it's just, it ends up on the ground. It's crazy to see, man. And I get that he wasn't able to really, you know, do that to Lopez, but he was giving Lopez a lot on the feet in that second round, man. I get he got dominated in the first, okay? It was kind of a rough look for Silva overall, but I really think he's going to learn from that brutal loss. And Lopez is really fucking good, man. I think Silva's going to be the better offensive grappler here. Like, I don't think Allen, yes, he would beat a Bryce Mitchell, but I don't think he would be fucking taking him down and whipping him around and fucking submitting him like Silva did. I think that Silva is just going to be a bit more ready for that pure striking gladiator kind of fucking battle here. He's going to be more susceptible to getting the knockout instead of being knocked out here, which I think helps him. So overall, I think he has just kind of more ways to win, not only on the feet, and he's a bit more versatile, but also he has a lot more power than Allen. Allen is really good at what he does. He's got great boxing, good hand speed, slick combinations, great pressure fighter, but also fights good on the back foot, like I was saying. But overall, Silva, he's got the offensive grappling advantage. He can hang for 1 round, he can hang for 3. The power is dangerous 24-7. And I feel like that Allen, yeah, he has good takedown defense to keep this fight standing, but even if it does, man, Silva's just going to unload. I don't think he's going to be as reckless or overly aggressive or just plain retarded, let's be honest, as he was against Lopez in the second round, because he was winning that round, and then he got fucking spinning elbow to hell, okay? So overall here, man, I trust in the bounce-back ability of Silva here. I still trust and believe in the fighting nerds, and I think that for as good as Allen is on the feet, man, he breaks his hands a lot. He's coming off a long layoff. I feel like the cage rush might be, unfortunately, a factor here, but overall, even if it wasn't, I'm going to rate Silva to the point to where I think he'll bounce back. And he'll be a staple of the top 6, man. He'll start dog barking over Allen. I really hope I'm wrong, but also I think it's going to be a banger, so I can't complain too goddamn much. You know, I love Silva as well. So overall, I'm going with Gene Silva via a round 2 or 3 KO here. Moving on up next, and I don't really think this should be on the main card, but it is what it is. We got Rose Namajunas taking on Natalia Silva here. I'm going with Natalia Silva, big favorite. I rate her striking a bit better here. Namajunas lately, I mean, she's kind of win 2, lose 2, win 2, lose 2, and I feel like she's just going to get frustrated in there. I don't see see her just having this elite enough wrestling and grappling to just be able to hold down Silva and get some kind of submission. I think Silva's going to keep this fight standing. I think that she's just going to get the better of Rose by being faster, frustrating her on the back foot, circling around the outside, and just stealing away these rounds to where, yeah, it could possibly be boring, but I think Silva's good enough to fight if Shevchenko in her next fight, whereas I think Rose would get 50-45 smudged by Shevchenko. You know what I mean? So overall, I'm going with Natalia Silva via a 29-28 decision. Moving on up next to the big boys getting the hell after it here, man. We got Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Derek Lewis. And I'm going with Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I think if Lewis wins, it's going to be a round 1 KO, obviously. And I think if Cortes-Acosta wins, I think it's going to be a round 1 or maybe 2 KO, all right? I think these guys are going to meet in the motherfucking fire, and I really respect Cortes-Acosta. I mean, I respect both these dudes. I like both these dudes, but I really respect Cortes-Acosta for fighting 6 times in 12 months. Absolute insanity. And it's not like they're evenly spaced either. You know what I mean? It's saying like some of these are like within a span of 2 or 3 fucking weekends. So overall, I really respect the activity from Cortes-Acosta. His power has been shining lately against, who was it? Like a Ryan Spann or the big Blob Gaethje or guys like that, man. Like D'Elia as well. So overall, I think it's insane that this guy used to be like a Dominican baseball player, because now MMA is his fucking home sweet home. Like it's the Motley Crew, dude. He has the power and the striking to hang. He has good speed and combinations and head movement for heavyweight, which I think is crazy because a lot of these guys are lacking in this department. They're kind of like the patchy mix against Batista, but just all the time. You know what I'm saying? The power of Cortes-Acosta is there. We didn't really see it too much at first in the UFC. He was a bit of a heavyweight decision machine, but now he's racking it up, man. And the thing is, he can out-wrestle guys if he wants to. He's not just a good striker for heavyweight. He's not just efficient up there, but he also can out-wrestle guys. That's how he pretty much primarily beat Rebellis to Spain and got him cut from the fucking UFC. And on top of the fact, I'm not just trying to rant about Waldo. I'll get to Lewis in a second here, but Waldo also has a really durable chin, which I think is the key factor, the big component as to why I'm picking him in this fight. Because if he was kind of chinny or kind of on and off, maybe if he had like the chin of a Blades. Like Blades has a good chin, but he's very prone to also getting knocked the fuck out by hard enough hitters. You know what I'm saying? I think Cortes-Acosta has like a Holloway or a Vettori level chin at heavyweight. Jesus. I think it could be exposed one day, but if you're in the 3rd round taking Pavlovich's biggest shots as he's unloading on you, I mean, Cortes-Acosta, durable, good striking, good wrestling, all for heavyweight. I need a preface, okay? I'm not talking about like the lighter man skill here. For heavyweight, Cortes, I feel like belongs in the top 5 or 6 here, right? The problem for Lewis and why I'm ranting so much about Cortes-Acosta is that even though I think Lewis is a good striker for heavyweight, I think even though Lewis has a lot of power, the power advantage in this fight, right? And I think the high-level UFC experience advantage here. People forget, man, Lewis fought for the fucking belt a couple times. I just think the problem for Lewis in this matchup is that, yeah, he does have the advantage with the power, and he has the most KOs in UFC history. One of the most dangerous power punchers of all motherfucking time, okay? Even though the power is insane, that's his main and only option to winning here, in my opinion. Like, Waldo has almost every single advantage. He has multiple ways to win here. He has better cardio, better output and volume on the feet, the better combinations and technical striking, the better wrestling offensively and defensively, whereas Lewis, he hits hard. He hits really fucking hard. And that's knocked out a lot of guys, but that's it. Waldo can have all these advantages, but all it takes is one shot from Lewis. That's the really intriguing part about this matchup, but I'm trusting in what my brain and my gut are telling me. I'm trusting in the more active fighter as well, in Cortes-Acosta here. I'm a big fan of Lewis. I'd like to see him take his fucking pants off and do a promo in front of the crowd, right? If he wins, maybe get a big White House fight, but I just don't see it, unfortunately, but expect a knockout regardless. Moving on up next to Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. And I'm another big fan of this matchup. A lot of these, man. I'm expecting big KOs here no matter who wins. But if it's going to be anybody, I feel like it could be Sean O'Malley, and that's actually going to be my prediction here, okay? The odds makers are putting great respect on Song. He should be only the slight underdog. He has a really good chance to win this fight. He's only the slightly younger fighter. And I want to say this, man. He's only now 28. Jesus Christ. He's been in the UFC since he was a literal infant, like 18 or 20 years old. We all want to talk about Raul Rosas Jr., but Song Yadong's been fighting the top 10 since he came out the fucking womb. So respect to him. He's only going to go up. He's clearly, he's experienced a couple losses, but he's clearly learning from those losses. He's on a great win streak right now. He'll get a fucking title shot if he beats O'Malley, you know what I'm saying? And just completely shut down the storyline. And I think that Song Yadong is the more well-rounded fighter. I think that Song has more options to get this fight done. Like more options to victory, I guess I should say. You know what I mean? So Song has a real good chance here. But unfortunately, I think this fight's really going to play out on the feet for the most part. And if that's the case, I really rate Sean O'Malley's striking here, man. Like, in my opinion, Sean O'Malley, I know that he is kind of a meme at times. I know people like to shit on him, but let's just talk about the skill set here, man. Like, not only is his personality growing to me, I got to be honest, I'm just been always aware of how good the striking is. I always have rated O'Malley as one of the best strikers in the lighter weight classes, and I think that's going to shine in this matchup. Song Yadong has been training in his judo and training in his wrestling. He's prepared to shoot takedowns against Sean O'Malley. He'll probably take down Sean O'Malley a couple of times. So if you're going to go for like an over or under of like 3.5, I might go over. I think Song will take him down a few times. But I think Sean, since he's been preparing for Merab 2 camps in a row, one of the best wrestlers in bantamweight fucking history, say what you will, but I think that's the case, especially with the great cardio. Like, Sean really had to improve his cardio, really improve being careful in these tight-knit situations and avoid getting subbed or taken down. And for Sean, just working on the takedown defense and defensive grappling and how he looks in the scrambles overall for somebody like Merab, even though he lost twice to Merab, all that preparation, I feel like, has accidentally made it so that I don't think Song Yadong is going to be very efficient with holding him down for long. Because if he can get up from Merab taking him down, I know that he can get up from Song taking him down. Song is well-rounded. Song can mix in the wrestling and defend it as well. But Sean O'Malley's striking here, on top of the fact that I think his takedown defense is going to hold up, is the keys to victory here, man. He does a good job of moving forward and applies pressure when he wants to, but he's also good on the back foot and a great counter striker as well. Song Yadong hits hard, but I think that Sean O'Malley, has more power. I think that he utilizes his reach really well. I think he's a very accurate striker. Good power for bantamweight especially. He's precise, he's quick, he's efficient and technical and powerful. And I feel like the main problem for O'Malley here, other than his career kind of being on the line, is that Song Yadong, can simply be the more well-rounded fighter, but I just don't think that it's going to be enough to really just neutralize Sean like a Merab did, or arguably like a Yan did, depends who you ask, you know what I'm saying? So I think this is, a very winnable fight for Song, but I think that Sean's takedown defense is going to be there. I think his striking is going to be there, and I can see him knocking out Song Yadong. It's very hard to finish Song Yadong, but I think that Sean has that precision, accuracy, and power, and just all the skills necessary in the tool bag on the feet to be able to mix it up, move in and out really well, and just follow up with all the right shots and combinations. The timing will be there, the speed will be there, and I think that Sean O'Malley might be a bit more one-dimensional, but he has great enough striking to get this one fucking done, to the point to where I see a round 3 KO. I think Song Yadong might take a round, Sean might take a round, it's going to be 1-1 in the third, and Sean gets a fucking round 3 KO. Absolute cinema. We'll see if I'm right or not, but that's my prediction here, all right? And moving on out to the main event here, boys. This is the fight that everybody's been thinking about, for better or worse, for 6+ weeks here, man. Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. I'm excited for this one. I'm foaming at the mouth for it. I would have liked to see a Topuria or a Saryukin or just one of, the guys that is the best of the division here, but I'm still cool with this fight regardless, and my prediction is going to be Paddy Pimblett. I'm going with Pimblett, and don't get me wrong, dude, there was a week or two I was really scared going back and forth thinking about picking Gaethje. There was a day I actually was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going with Gaethje. I think that he has the striking advantage, the power advantage, and the clear UFC or higher level UFC experience advantage as a whole, to where, his takedown defense can be shady at times, like Fiziev was fucking taking him down and kind of putting work on him a bit in their recent fight, but overall, I think that Gaethje's good enough, and it's kind of that people forget man pick to, it's like, he's not that old. His striking is that good. I could see Gaethje getting a fucking stellar round 2 or 3 KO, shutting down the Paddy Pimblett storyline, just like how we did to Tony Ferguson. 4th round TKO, absolute huge upset, and now Gaethje ended up fighting Khabib. I could see Gaethje, well, I would say fighting Topuria, but I feel like if Gaethje wins this fight, man, he's just fucking gonna be gone, man. Like, Topuria ain't gonna want to fight him. Uncle Dana wants no business with him, bro. So it'll be tough, the timeline we're in, if Gaethje wins, but I think that there's a really good chance he can get it done, man. He's got a wealth of experience. He's, for the most part, I get that he can have poor fight IQ against, like, the Oliveira fight, for example, but for the most part, especially in his past couple performances, like the Poirier rematch, both the Fiziev fights, like, the guy is fighting smart. He's much more composed, but at the same time, I think he lacks that recklessness and explosivity and power landing shots that I think ultimately is what got him to the dance in terms of the top 5 and in terms of popularity. So even though he's kind of strayed away from that kind of fighting style, his striking is still good enough, and I think would present enough problems alone for Patty so that I can see him maybe getting this fucking win here, man. And it's like, besides the Holloway, like, flatline KO and, like, the times where Gaethje has been finished besides submission. We'll get to Patty and his grappling and how that's gonna fucking play a factor here. But Gaethje, I think, has a good enough chin to where I know Patty's saying, I'm gonna go fucking knock him out loud and I'm gonna eat a piece of pizza on his fucking grave. I just think that Gaethje, if he does lose this fight, it's gonna be by submission. Not decision and not KO. I think if Patty wins, and I think he will, it will be by sub. Gaethje's takedown defense, listen, dude, if you're getting taken down by Fiziev, I know that Patty, he doesn't always have the cleanest entries. In fact, a lot of the time, they can be poor. And I know that the statistic alone is kind of concerning, but I'm telling you, man, I think that even though Gaethje's takedown defense is so on and off, but for the most part, it can be very off. Like, on paper, it's good, but then you actually look at it and it's like, you know what I mean? So I think that Patty is going to be able to get these fucking takedowns once that second or third round hits, man. And I think that once this fight hits the ground, or just some kind of explosive scramble where Patty ends up either on top or gets the back of Gaethje, or he's in some kind of good position where I think Patty is going to be able to get that sub. I was hyping up Gaethje at the beginning of this pick because, listen, I think he does have all those advantages I was mentioning. I think he does have a chance to win. But I cannot emphasize enough how little I trust in the wrestling of Justin Gaethje. I don't trust him, man. I would rather trust a blind man to drive me home from the fucking bars than trust Justin Gaethje to, like, not get submitted against, like, whoever it is in a title fight. Because in these title fights, man, he gets choked out consistently, dude. You know what I'm saying? Choked out by Oliveira, choked out by Khabib. You know, if he fought Makhachev, it'd end the same fucking way. Don't be that people forget man guy that would pick Gaethje. Jesus. But overall, I don't think Patty is on the level of those guys. I think he could beat a Gaethje. I think he could present problems to some of the guys in the top 5. But let's be honest, I think Arman or Topuria, whoever, would fucking demolish him. But in this matchup specifically, I think that Patty has the necessary grappling to be able to submit Gaethje. I think he has the necessary submission ability as a whole to where I understand the goddamn it Bobby win and the Tony Ferguson and even older Tony Ferguson win and lost to Jerry Gordon and like the old man Michael Chandler. I get that there are a lot of asterisks next to these wins that Patty has gotten. And these are the wins essentially that got Patty to this title fight, right? And he hasn't been the most active past couple years. So I understand where everybody's saying like, oh, Patty just isn't going to be able to get these takedowns. And Patty, look at this shitty winning streak he's on. Like, he's clearly going to get shown levels. Even though I get that, I think Patty has the clear fucking grappling advantage that's necessary to get the better of Gaethje in the scrambles and is necessary to get the better of him in these positions to where he can find some crafty sub. I can't trust in the grappling or takedown defense of Gaethje. And I at least know that I can probably trust in that with Patty. Patty, for the most part, has a good chin. Patty does have underrated striking. And I think in terms of the chin's durability, yeah, like I just said, it's there. But he does keep his chin really up and really high in the pocket. I think that could be very concerning for Patty. So Patty needs to keep that fucking chin down. But if he's able to do that and is able to be safe but efficient in the pocket against Gaethje, enough to steal away these rounds, hold his own in the feet, but ultimately try and get the fight to the ground, I think he can survive, man. I think if it was an older, reckless Gaethje who just swings with intent to kill, I could see him knocking the fuck out of Patty. Patty's just clearly going to be looking for the game plan of just finding some way to choke you out because he knows it can clearly be done. And I know Gaethje's wrestling with Usman and all these guys. I know that Gaethje's probably, he's been pretty inactive lately. I'm sure he is working on his submission defense. But Patty, I just think he has the plot armor. The UFC's pushing behind him. And I think that Patty, if he was going to beat anybody in the top 5, I would pick him to beat Gaethje. I wouldn't pick him to beat Holloway. I wouldn't pick him to beat Saryukin. Maybe Oliveira. It depends when you ask me, right? But that might be a hot take. I'm sorry. But I would pick him to beat Gaethje. If this fight wasn't for the belt, I thought this was the fight clearly to make next. And now it is, but it's for an interim belt because of circumstances. I'm not just going to change my pick and change my mind because Patty, oh, look at the win streak, or oh, like look at the takedown accuracy, or oh, look how good Gaethje is when I'm rewatching fights or whatever, right? I'm trusting Patty to have the clear intent to go out there and choke him out. I think he'll have the necessary cardio. I know that his striking can be very wonky at times, but overall, I think it's underrated enough to where Gaethje has a clear advantage on the feet, but I think Patty is going to be able to mix it up and find this choke out here, man. So I sense a round 3 sub after the first 2 rounds are really scrappy and back and forth, and Patty has a scare, but ultimately survives. Because again, Chandler rocked Patty a bit. Like fucking Chandler took him down. So like Patty's not invincible. But overall, I think he's good enough to hang with Gaethje. And Gaethje is good, so therefore I guess Paddy's fucking good. Now, if he gets knocked out in one round, I don't know where we go from there, but overall, I'm just going into it at least, I'm predicting a Paddy Pimblett round 3 submission here after a scrappy fight to start it off, okay? And moving on now to the blanks of the card, boys, but the 2026 version, all right? I did this last year for every picks video, and I really enjoyed adding it to the end, so I hope you guys did too. We're going to keep it going this year, but shout out to Luke Franklin, commented on one of the recent prediction videos and said I should replace the wild card of the card with the banger of the card. Banger of the card being a fight that I think is going to be the best one on the card in terms of the violence or the knockout ability or the finish ability, whatever. But the point is, which fight's going to guarantee a nice back and forth? Okay, that's what the banger of the card is going to be, but overall, same as last year. Underdog of the card, which of my underdogs am I the most confident in? Locks of the card, which of my picks am I the most confident in? And card rating, what am I going to rate this card from 1 to 10? Enough of the preamble. Sorry, I just know it's the first one of the year. All right, there might be some new people here. I gotta tell you how this goes down, okay? And obviously, as the year goes on, I'm gonna keep track of how many I get right or wrong. Starting off with the first one, underdog of the card. After all that talk, I got nothing. Okay, I went with every single favorite on the card. Usually, this would be again an underdog I'm really confident in, but I didn't pick any underdogs for this card. So my predictions are either going to go really good or really bad. I know there's some really big favorites on this card and some really small ones, but it remains the same. I did not pick any underdog. There were some I was thinking about. There's some I think have really good value, but there's none I could really convince myself with. If anything, I'll be honest, I think that Justin Gaethje and Michael Johnson are the best underdogs of the card, but I didn't pick them, so it is what it is. Moving on next to my locks of the card, which of my picks am I the most confident in to get it done and not motherfucking lose? I am going to be putting Umar Nurmagomedov here. I'm sorry. Y'all are going to say I'm cheating or something. Gautier. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. I'm going to put Gautier on here as well. I'm going to put Ty Miller on here as well. I'm just going with all the big-ass favorites. So those are going to be my 3 locks of the card. Listen, man, I don't make the rules. You guys ask me, what do you think are my safest bets? What do you guys think are my safest picks? It's going to be these 3 massive favorites here. Now, don't get me wrong. I could see Ty Miller losing. I could see Umar Nurmagomedov losing. I could see Gautier losing, but I'm going to trust in the odds makers here. I'm going to trust with what I know here and just trust that even though a Cortes-Acosta is tempting, I could see Cortes-Acosta maybe getting knocked out. Or even though an O'Malley is tempting, I could see O'Malley getting like ground and pound TKO'd. So overall, I'm trusting in the locks I got here. I get their big favorites and it might be pretty fucking obvious. I'm sorry, but I'm going to take advantage of these big favorites on this card because I know they're not going to be for every card. So I'm taking advantage of it. These are my 3 locks of the card, all right? Moving on now to the banger of the card. Which of these fights on the card do I think is going to be the most exciting or the most likely to end via just a great fight of the night or some kind of KO or submission? It's Arnold Allen and Gene Silva. I think there's a lot of violence on the main card. I think the prelims are pretty good in terms of having a lot of bangers and a lot of fights that can end via finish. But Allen versus Silva is the one. In terms of watching the fight, not necessarily the stakes or whatever, but in terms of watching the fight, which of these fights am I the most excited to just be glued to the screen and just see these two go back and forth on the whole card? It's Allen versus Silva. So Allen versus Silva, I think it's going to get some kind of finish no matter who wins, no matter who loses, or no matter how it ends. So I'm going with Allen versus Silva as the banger of the card. Moving on up next to the card rating here, bro, and I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I had a whole fucking thing where I recorded it originally 8.5, whatever, and then Harrison pulls out. The co-main event's gone, and now Namajunas and fucking Silva's to the main card. I feel like Umar was right there. That's a #1 fucking contender. Who I thought having him on the prelims was fine. I thought it was great. Showed the depth of the card, but fights like that and fights like Gautier, I feel like those are the ones you kind of could have put in above it. But you know what it is, I feel like this is kind of like, you know, it's a better version of the 311 situation. Like, yeah, it's a major pullout. I feel like that's why it's going from like a strong 8 to like a kind of like a light 8, not just like a Fantano here, but I still like the card. I think it's really strong from top to bottom. The early prelims, the prelims, and the main card especially are great. They got a lot of violence. There's a lot of name value on it. The casuals and the hardcore can both relate to it, right? There's a lot to get excited for. But again, the co-main being gone, that lowers it a bit. The main event being something you have to fucking have steam coming out of your head like your Majin Buu. Like, it takes a lot of thought knowing the fact that the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 guys, I mean, maybe one of these guys is ranked 4 or 5, but the point is Makhachev was here and Topuria is the champ. Like, there are 4 or 5 lightweights on the planet that are able to be better than these guys. Unfortunately, arguably, you know what I'm saying? Maybe one of these guys could beat them, but my point is, that alone, knowing that it could have been like a Saryukian versus Paddy or Topuria versus Saryukian or whatever it may be, I don't know, that kind of takes it away as well. Like, knowing that you're opening up Paramount with an interim title fight. I don't know, man. I still like the fight, though. Like I was saying, actually, yapping about the fight itself. I would have liked the matchmaking regardless if it was for a belt or not. So if there's a belt on it or a fake belt on it or fucking whatever on it, like, I'm okay with it. I just know that it sucks that Topuria is out right now. It sucks that Tsarukyan's out of the picture. You know, I like the Charles and Holloway fight, but we are here with this, and I feel like it's such a circumstantial thing. It's what the UFC does best, and it's carrying the card. Patty's a big name, Gaethje's a big name, and again, the casual and hardcores can fucking love it, but I don't know, man. There's a lot of fucking overthinking to it. You know what I'm saying? So overall, I like the main event. I like the main card as a whole. A lot of violence. Questionable to have Silva and Namajunas on it, but the prelims are so kind of stacked as a whole to where I can see a lot of knockouts and subs. Again, name value. You got Krylov and Bukaukus and Perez and Johnson and another Johnson and Hernandez and Hokit, the Chael Sonnen, Turcios and Ty Miller debuting, and you got fucking Davison, Figueiredo, and Umar on the prelims as a whole. On the prelims, again, I can say it 100 times and it will still be crazy. Like, it is a wild thing, you know. So I think it's a great card. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 here. And that's going to be it for UFC 324 predictions and breakdown, man. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you made it this far, man, thank you so very much for giving me your time and attention, boys. And just overall, let me know your picks. And just let me know who your underdogs are or your locks are. Like, I would absolutely love to hear it. If you made it this far, man, I mean, Jesus, I hope you have a great time watching 324, whether you're with your boys or whether with yourself, man. Truly, I hope you guys have an amazing time. I hated the weeks off and no fights, but I got to give it to him, man. I'm way more just purely amped up for these back-to-back number cards we're getting, okay? And they're great on paper, so I hope they deliver. All the smoke here. Appreciate y'all a lot. Be safe out there, man, watching these fights, but I hope you enjoy it. I'll see y'all next time.